What's up, everyone? Kevin Allen here, aka the Geek from DFS Army, and we are taking a look at NFL Week 11 on DraftKings. This is your first look. All right, it's NFL Week 11. Oh my goodness, the season is flying by. And this week, like every week, early in the week, I like to take a look at the games, take an overall view of the slate, and get a look at the salaries on DraftKings, build a lineup, a little first look lineup action going. So again, as usual, before we get into actually looking at the players, the salaries, and where everything is this week and how DraftKings is trying to screw us with their price hikes and whatnot, I like to take a look at the overall game tiles here and just get a sense of which games stand out. And once again, Chicago, man, they're in the game of the week here at Atlanta, 50-point total. Fields doing it. You feel like you're jumping the bandwagon. You feel like you didn't want to play Fields last week. Fields has been the first look quarterback. Now this will be the third week in a row. He was the nuts last week. He was the nuts the week before. We mentioned him the week before that when he was the nuts. We've been on the Fields bandwagon since the beginning. Props to Bobby Wow. Props to DFS Up North for getting on the trend early, and that's why we're kicking ass and taking names over in DFS Army and here in the first look lineup video. So Fields, right back to it. Flip side, Falcons don't have a lot of passing offense that I'm going to get excited about, but listen, I kind of the running back situation, Cordero Patterson, you got some stuff going on over there that could be interesting as well. So Bears and Falcons, 50-point total. Want to get on that game. Browns at the Bills. Always play Josh Allen. That's my philosophy. The elbow, did it affect him? I don't really know. But this total looks really low for a game between two exciting offenses. So, man, it's almost Deshaun Watson season. We're getting there. Interesting. Next up, we've got the Eagles at the Colts. Matt Ryan, Eagles defense going to be interesting. Eagles offense and Hurts and all that, great. 44-point total is a little bit low, though, to get too crazy with that game. One of the worst totals of the week and of the season here, we've got the Jets at the Patriots. Defensive struggle, 38.5-point total here. Ramondre, and I guess, not really a game I want to get too crazy with, other than finding punts like Garrett Wilson for the Jets. Interesting punt play potential. Maybe, nah. Stay away from that one. Rams at the Saints. This one's interesting. It's low as the total is. It's horrible, 39. The Rams without Cooper Kupp, assuming Cooper Kupp is out, maybe Van Jefferson, maybe those pieces. I don't know. Saints, Olave is always going to be an interesting play, and Kamara, but again, that's a really gross low total. A little surprised that that's only 39, actually, as I'm looking at it. First look, get a surprise. A little surprising. Lions at the Giants. Lions are the team that produces good fantasy outcomes for their opponents. We get the Giants here, 46.5-point total. The Giants defense is pretty good. I'm not going to get crazy with too many Lions players. Of course, Amon-Ra St. Brown is always somebody that I'm interested in, as long as, the matchup isn't too crazy, and this one isn't too crazy. Giants side, it's Saquon Barkley, and, that's about it. Maybe Daniel Jones and just load him up with some of those pass catchers, but it's really hard to know how to stack a Daniel Jones. Even when he has a good game, he doesn't normally carry a wide receiver with him, so it's a tricky one. Panthers at the Ravens. Ravens 12-point favorites at home here, 43.5-point total. 12 points seems like a lot. 43.5 total. Do we want to play Lamar here? I don't know. Maybe Donta Foreman. I've been riding the Donta Foreman bandwagon for a while here. I'm not sure I'm going to get off. And on the Ravens side, it's the player that probably interests me the most. Of course, if Mark Andrews is out again, Kenyon Drake has been doing pretty well for cheap. So we'll keep him in mind as a potential punt play, although I think the return of Gus Edwards may kind of spoil that. Commanders at the Texans. This one's interesting, guys. This one's interesting. Do we take a shot with Brian Robinson against the worst rush defense? Do we take a shot with Antonio Gibson against this terrible rush defense. That's going to be an interesting decision for this week. So I'm going to keep those two in mind. Not super interested in the Texans, although, Dameon Pierce is fine also in a spot like this. As low as that total is, doesn't matter so much because we're really targeting running backs in a game like this. Of course, having that being said, Terry McLaurin's been doing pretty well with Tyler Heineke at the helm. So let's keep that in mind as well. Raiders at the Broncos. Broncos, great defensive team. You never want to play wide receivers against the Broncos. When you take a look at our fantasy points against chart, you'll see that is not a good team to target wide receivers against. But you can play running backs a little bit. This is a low total game, but I guess Josh Jacobs might carry some interest. More interesting, the Broncos offense, obviously it stinks, but Raiders defense is really, really bad. So I guess Russell Wilson, if Cortland Sutton is in there and no Jerry Jeudy, maybe there's some interest there. I can't really get down with this group of Broncos running backs, though. Too many of them. Let's see. Last couple games here. Cowboys at the Vikings. That's the next game. So this game is exciting as well. Ooh, and Chiefs Charge. So afternoon slate, looking exciting. Cowboys at the Vikings here. 1-point road favorites. I love everything about this game. Both sides. It's got a 47.5-point total. Can we, every once in a while, the Cowboys will light it up. They do a lot better when Zeke is out. So I hope for the Cowboys offense sake that Zeke is kind of still gimpy this week. I hate to say it, but the Cowboys offense just looks so much more exciting, especially from a fantasy perspective when Zeke doesn't play. Now, it's sad to say it, but it's true. I like the Cowboys pass catchers, even Gallup, definitely Lamb. I don't mind Dak here, and certainly Tony Pollard. I'll go right back to it. I think we're seeing a seed change, especially, like I said, if Zeke plays, but it's still a little gimpy. Last week Pollard was in our first look lineup, and he absolutely smashed. Again, if you played the first look lineup last week, you probably did pretty well. Need an adjustment because I think we had Hardman in there, had to switch to Valdez-Scantling, but overall it was a really good lineup, and it cashed when I switched to Scantling from Hardman. But I like Pollard again here. On the Viking side, yeah, Justin Jefferson, sure. Guy's a beast. TJ Hawkinson's been doing really well. Cowboys side, Dalton Schultz has been great. So there's a lot of good pieces from this game. This is one I want to keep a close eye on, and this is one I want to purposefully target players from. And finally, we've got the Chiefs at the Chargers. Chiefs are 7-point road favorites in this one. Chargers, tough team to gauge right now because I'm not sure what the status is of Mike Williams, of Keenan Allen, and all of that. But Eckler in a dream matchup against the Chiefs. They're kind of bad against the running back position in general, but definitely not that good against pass catching running backs. Chiefs side, we have a lot of inexpensive wide receivers that we can choose from. If Juju Smith-Schuster is out, Kadarius Toney, can he do it again? I think maybe. Even if Juju's in, I kind of think Kadarius Toney kind of broke out a little bit last week. Valdez-Scantling. So these less expensive Chiefs wide receivers, especially if Juju is out, I'm very interested. And of course, Kelsey's always good. So with that being said, let's get into DraftKings, the salaries, all that good stuff. And remember, if you like this style of content, of course, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. And if you're not subscribed to DFS Army, make sure you go and get subscribed now. I know it's, hey, it's midway through the season. There's still a lot of time to learn. There's still a lot of time to learn. The video I put out yesterday, the weekend review, is one of the best things you're ever going to see. One of our staffers Scott Newman, who has come up with a really, really great system, repeatable systems across all sports through back testing for his approach to DFS. And we really got into it. Kind of really the key to it is teaching about being consistent with your process and approach and just letting the wins come to you instead of chasing what happened last week all the time. It's really good stuff. So make sure you check that out. And you have to be subscribed to the channel to see those really, really great strategy videos. So make sure you go and do that. Now, let's take a look at the quarterback position on DraftKings. And notable here that we have some interesting kind of price ups going on, especially Lamar Jackson. What the hell has he done to earn an 8,400 salary price point. He's done nothing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 duds in a row, and the salary just keeps going up. It's like they don't care. 6 duds. So he's got 6 duds in a row, and the salary just keeps increasing. And what? Why are you doing this? So obviously, Lamar Jackson has a big upside in any game, but not this one is not really one that stands out. That's a really weird salary. I'm off of it. Josh Allen is a play every week guy, but keep in mind, 8,500 again, that's a lot of salary to deal with. Allen usually can get you 30 plus. I think that's in the cards here, but if that shoulder's still acting up, I don't know how much I love it. Jalen Hurts, another guy priced up again this week, has not really been putting up the massive numbers that would justify this kind of a price point. Remember, at 8K on DraftKings, he needs 32 to 33 fantasy points minimum to keep you on pace. That's just for 200. If you want to get to 250, which is what you need to win a Millie Maker, he needs to get closer to 40. I don't think that that's in the cards for Jalen Hurts this week. So, just bear in mind, I don't know if he has it in him. Justin Fields, 7,600. So now here is what I like. So here we can save 1,000 over the Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson types. Justin Fields does have very solid 30 plus point upside, 43, 45, 26, 24 over the past 4 weeks. So think of it like this. Justin Fields needs to get about 30 to keep you on pace with that 200-point score, and about 33, 34 to keep you on pace for a 250. I mean, that's about the average of what he's been doing over the last few weeks, so I don't mind it here. I like it, and he is in the matchup of the week, so I am plugging him in. I know it's like, hey, Kev, you've put Justin Fields in your first look lineup. Now it's the 4th week in a row or whatever. What are you doing? Why am I watching? Well, you know what? The dude's been in the nuts all of these weeks, so I'll keep doing it. But there are some other quarterbacks that I want to mention that I'm interested in this week. Of course, Joe Burrow in the ultimate QB wide receiver matchup at Pittsburgh. I like that one. Dak Prescott, I mentioned this earlier. Love this game. And he would be my alternate choice to Fields for this lineup. If I wanted to sort of save a little bit of salary, I think Dak has plenty of upside. Maybe not the same 40-point ceiling that Fields seems to have, because Fields just only runs the ball. Like, it's amazing. I love what he's doing. And he's magic out there. He's escaping. He's just so dialed in right now. I love it. But Dak Prescott is in a spectacular matchup in a game that could explode. I really like game stacks around that Dallas-Minnesota game. Cousins is the other side of potential game stacks here, although I like him less. He has not really just done it. Even last week in the miraculous high-scoring affair, he only got you 20. Dalvin Cook had the big game, so be careful with Kirk Cousins. Denver has a good matchup, but Russell Wilson, can he be trusted at all at this point as a quarterback? I say no. Keeping it real, I say no. He cannot be trusted. Daniel Jones, again, in a dream matchup at home versus Detroit. Can he be trusted? I say no. Can't be trusted. Don't know who to stack him with. If he got a wide receiver, I think he'd actually be a productive fantasy quarterback, though. So don't write him out completely, but I think he'd be productive if he simply had a wide receiver, but they just don't. They don't have one. I don't understand why they didn't trade for one. It's bizarre. Derek Carr is always no. Derek Carr, if you want Derek Carr recommendations, literally go watch any other DFS or fantasy football YouTube channel. They recommend them every week. It's for them, not for us. If you're coming to DFS Army, we put out winners, bro. This is for people. I really think the people who put out Derek Carr recommendations are actually actively trying for you to lose. So if you're watching this, and you always hear these rumors about, they're propping up players they're not going to play. I want to believe that, because it's hard to imagine that people who actually have any knowledge of this sport and of metrics and all of that would ever tell you to play this guy who never, ever, ever makes value. Going back years, why do they keep telling you to do it? Stop listening to those people, please. Now they're going to listen because I say it all the time, and now it's going to be a thing, but stop listening to those people. They're not good at this. Mariota's a no. Stafford's a no. Brissett is a no. At Buffalo, hell no. That's a hell no. Heineke at Houston. Wouldn't that be interesting? But he is not a fantasy producer. Kenny Pickett, maybe. So if we need a little kind of like a really super cheapie, maybe it's Kenny Pickett this week. Got to think about that bottom area of the quarterback position. But I think it's going to be Fields. I think it's going to be Dak for the most part this week. Those are the two that stand out the most for me. And then maybe mix in some of these other guys. But if you only did Fields and Dak handcrafts, I think you're okay. Oh, Burrow. Burrow's the other guy I kind of like a lot. All right, let's take a look at the wide receiver position. Before we get, should we start running back? You know what? Let's go to running back. Let's start at top. Barkley gets the dream matchup, home versus Detroit. Totally fine with that play. Nick Chubb on the road at Buffalo, not cool with that play at all. Nick Chubb is another one of these players that is having a great season and yet never makes value on DraftKings. Why are we playing him here? He's only once been part of a nuts lineup, and that was because the running back position that particular week was absolutely awful. He still barely made 4x salary. That was, I believe, week 2 when he actually exceeded 4x when he was 7K. But at 8K, yeah, he's getting you 28. You need 32 just to keep pace with 200. The 28 required 2 touchdowns. Sometimes it takes 3 touchdowns. He doesn't make value. He doesn't win you tournaments. He's good for cash. He's good for sort of smaller contests, but this is not a player that has helped us win Millie Makers this year. You got to be careful with Nick Chubb. He's just too expensive based on the lack of passing game work on DraftKings and the lack of, really just the lack of passing game work and PPR points. He just doesn't 4X. It's a guy that you really don't want to be on too heavily. Dalvin Cook, I don't love this matchup against Dallas. Dallas is just a pretty good team. They are weaker against the run than the pass a little bit. He had the monster game last week, 26, but his best game of the year again, 18-20 for 32, didn't even come anywhere near 4X his salary. The salary is just too high for what Dalvin Cook brings to the table. Taylor in a tough matchup at home against the Eagle. I don't mind Taylor here. I don't mind it in the sense that, he's still a good player and he does get enough work to sort of get there against the salary at times. He's got that 50-point upside, but this is definitely not a good matchup for him. Kamara, another one at the Rams, not a good matchup. He can always do it. He's at home. I do prefer Kamara at home, but he's kind of disappointed us the last few weeks. So I'm not sure that this is a spot where I want to go to Kamara and pay all the way up. Now, so looking at Josh Jacobs, another situation here where it's a very low scoring game. I like Josh Jacobs. He's getting a ton of volume. The volume continues, 21 carries, 8 targets, 17. So the volume is there. I actually don't mind it. I don't love this game environment. It's the same opponent that held Derrick Henry to really, really bad production last week, and it's just Denver. These games are slow and low scoring, but Josh Jacobs can do it, so I'm keeping him in mind. Mixon's another one I'm keeping in mind here. He's coming off the monster game last week. 50. If you didn't know Mixon, no money game last week, it was amazing. He actually carried a couple of my season-long teams to wins that maybe didn't deserve it. I like the salary level. The volume is there. He's very similar play in terms of his volume. 22 carries, 5 targets. He's a very similar play in terms of volume to Jacobs, but with a better matchup. And let's just take a look real quick here at Pittsburgh against the run. I think they're decent against the run. Pittsburgh, here we go. They're above average against the run. They're really a team you want to target with wide receivers. But so what? Miles Sanders at 6-7K is a hell no. Ramondre is a maybe for me. Here's an interesting one. Dameon Pierce, who we faded last week. What a fade. Another situation where the field read it wrong and we were able to fade it and just really avoided some mediocre chalk in Pierce last week. So congrats to everybody who kind of followed my fade on him. And the fade was primarily it was just a misread. I talked about it in a few of the videos about the Giants defense. The Giants defense is good against the run, but people who look at DVOA are not really seeing what we're seeing here. You could see by our chart, which is superior to pretty much anything that's out there in terms of understanding matchups, that the Giants are somewhat above average against opposing running backs, and it's not a team to target. Not a team to target. But now we get Washington in the matchup 6,500, where Houston might actually, for the first time this year, are they favored? No. But let me see here. I forgot. Houston Texans. Oh, no, but they're only 3-point underdogs. I was like going to say, maybe the first time they were favored in the whole season, but they're slight home underdogs. So at the very least, Pierce won't be completely or shouldn't be completely game flowed out of this one. Tony Pollard is interesting, and I'm going to start my lineup with him. I really like this game environment, and I do think that Zeke will return, but what Pollard is doing, I don't think that's going to slow him down. I think they'll kind of like work Zeke in slowly and maybe get Pollard a little more passing game work. So I'm going to take another shot here in the first look with Tony Pollard. There's a few other wide receivers, running backs that are available this week that are lower cost and that are interesting. So I want to kind of go over those guys, but I like Pollard here. I don't mind Patterson coming off a rough game, but another game environment I really want to target. And Patterson is one of those players that when he's doing it, he's probably helping you win the million. You know, he get about a 25. That's about his upside. The one negative for Patterson this season compared to the past is the passing game work's just not there because the Falcons don't throw the football very often. So, you know, that upside is not the same. He's really just kind of a part-time running back at a full-time running back price. I don't love it. Montgomery, man, you got to have some big balls to play Montgomery at this point. He is not getting enough volume to really do any sort of damage. So it'll happen one of these weeks, but that I don't think that was the time. With DeAndre Swift, the volume's still not there. The concern I have is the Q tag. There's no injury designation, but yet the team seems afraid to give him work. So if that's the case, that's a real problem for us. I think at some point they're just going to realize, oh, we have Swift and we should be using him. But right now it's just really a weird situation with Swift, and I don't like it. I don't like it. So let's come to the bargain price zone. Kenyon Drake, okay. I do think that we probably see Gus Edwards this week, but Kenyon Drake has just been so much better. He's actually looked pretty good as a running. Look at his 24 carries. I'm keeping him in mind. I'm not ready to use him on the first look. I want to get a sense of the Edwards health. Well, let's actually read this blurb. Plan for Edwards to be available. I don't think they're going to give Edwards a ton of work. He's coming off that injury. It reminds me of Pollard, Zeke a little bit last week, where people were scared to play Pollard at first because Zeke was going to play, and he's in, he's out. I think Kenyon Drake is the guy there for now. He's just looked much better at running back than anybody else has. Why not keep using him? Donta Foreman is one of these players that I keep going back to every week, and the field just doesn't want to believe. But I like the matchup against Baltimore. I think it's fine, and they're going to keep feeding him. For Chuba Hubbard been out for a few weeks. Let's see if he comes back. That might hurt Foreman a little bit. I'm not going to plug him in here, but I definitely like Foreman a little bit. Devin Singletary, pretty big game last week here, but it took 2 touchdowns for him to get to 16 fantasy points, and that's the unfortunate reality with D Sizzles. They're just not a running team, and they're not going to feed their running back. So he needs to be a lot cheaper than this for me to be interested. He's been a much bigger bargain on FanDuel, so I would just mess with him over there. Looking through the rest of this group, so the running backs I wanted to sort of focus in on here, the ultimate running back matchup is Houston, and we've got Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson Jr., both sort of double teaming this Houston defense. And man, it's tough here because both of them are interesting. Hard to know which one will get more looks. I was very impressed with 26 carries for Robinson against the Eagles. He will definitely get those goal line carries. He has a little bit of that upside, where Antonio Gibson has a little bit of the pass catching upside. So I'm going to lean Gibson here, but I don't mind either. And again, this is the best matchup for the running back position, so it's a matchup I want to target for sure. Let's see if there's anybody else here at running back that carries any interest at all. I'm leaning no. I don't recall anybody else that really popped off on the radar. So I'm going to plug in, as crazy as this sounds, Antonio Gibson in that matchup against Houston for now. We're going to need to get a little bit lucky with that, but let's see how the lineup looks as we put this all together. Before I move on to the wide receiver positions, I like to plug in what I consider to be the cheapest viable defense of the week. And for me, that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. The return of Watt really helps. And as good as Burrow is, and I think I like the Cincinnati offense in this game, which is kind of weird. Burrow takes a lot of sacks, and Pittsburgh likes to sack opposing quarterbacks. So that's two great tastes that taste great together for our defense. Pittsburgh has not really done a lot since Watt came out, but then he comes back, and all of a sudden they're back to putting up big defensive scoring numbers. So I'm fine with it. I'm trying to go with the cheapest one I could find. And realistically, I'm not finding anything else that looks particularly good. So we will go with them. Tight end position. That's right. We go right to tight end. So I want to just go through the tight end position with us. We might want to use Cole Kmet here if we're going to use Justin Fields. But let's kind of just talk through the whole position group. Mark Andrews, if he comes back, is always great, and he's going to be our pay-up option of the week. And I'm always down with Mark Andrews as an elite pay-up option at the position. Dallas Goedert really has been doing good things as well, and you see the price is steadily coming up here, up to 5,600. So, do with that what you will. He's kind of in the no man's land for the tight ends at this point. Probably not somebody I'm going to be targeting too much. TJ Hawkinson, man, Kirk Cousins really likes this kid, and ever since he's kind of gone over to the Vikings, 10 targets, 9 targets. You don't normally see a player just kind of, especially a tight end, just kind of get integrated like this, but pretty impressive stuff. Waller is on IR. Pitts is just not enough volume. Dalton Schultz has been my guy the last few weeks. I really find that I love him. I love him in this spot. I love him every week. He was my favorite play last week and the week before because Dak, or 2 weeks ago, when just Dak and Dalton have a good connection, and he's finally kind of being priced back up to where he should be. I thought it was crazy that he was in the 3Ks the last few weeks, so we loaded up on him, and that really worked out. But now we got the $4,300 version, and I think it's fine. As a matter of fact, if this wasn't a Fields lineup, this is probably going to be the guy that I default to this week if I can pay up a little bit at tight end. Freiermuth is a good spot here as well, 4,200. I like that. Cole Kmet here, price coming up. A little scary to play him. Not sure I love it, but I mean, he's just been doing well with Fields in combo. So he's definitely in my mind and somebody that we're probably going to want to have some interest in. Beyond that, if Andrews is out this week, I think we go right back to Isaiah Likely. I don't know that he's going to be out, so we'll see. I don't know he's going to be out. We don't know. But that's about it for the tight end position. Should we go Schultz? Should we go Kmet? Oof, man, this is a tough one. I think I'm going to go with Schultz. Really just like him better. Kmet feels a little chasey. The volume's not as steady. Either one works. I'm going to go Schultz, but we'll save, if we need 200 later, we'll go down to Kmet. How about that? Fair? Fair. All right, cool. So we've gone through quarterback, running back, tight end. Let's talk wide receiver. And one of the cool things is whenever you start a lineup with Justin Fields, you can kind of do whatever you want at wide receiver. And so, this week is a little bit challenging in terms of the value side, and we'll discover the values, and we'll kind of that's a lot of what the week's research gets us onto a couple plays here and there that we probably weren't thinking of when the week began. Last week we got onto a couple good names. Definitely Donovan Peoples-Jones, for example. We're all over that one. We're all over originally Hardman and then over to Valdez-Scantling, who worked out really well. So let's take a look at the wide receiver position, see what we can come up with. I got a couple of gems, a couple of potential low-cost gems, depending on how some of these injuries pop up. But Justin Jefferson, great spot. Love him. Obviously, right now playing as essentially the best wide receiver in the league. Made the catch of the year this past week. Maybe the catch of ever. Maybe an all-time great reception in that incredible game. My goodness, watch the highlights if you didn't see that game against Buffalo. It was so good. So Jefferson, but we can't really afford in this type of build. It's going to be tough to squeeze him in there. I definitely would like him, and I want to get him in there, but it's going to be tough to get him in there. So let's keep him in mind. Cooper Kupp, injured. Adams, just not doing it for the salary for me. This is the worst matchup. It's a hell no. Diggs is always good in an Allen combo. A.J. Brown, probably not here. Not somebody I'm excited about. CeeDee Lamb is somebody I'm interested in. We already talked about this game, so I'm going to try to plug him in here and see what happens. Right? See if we have enough salary to make a lineup look good. CeeDee Lamb is one of the paps. Like I said, I'm very excited to play Justin Jefferson as well if we can afford it. T. Higgins gets the golden matchup against Pittsburgh. I like that spot if we can afford it. Olave's fine. Boyd, a little too expensive for his role in that offense for me. Kupp at Buffalo is not really somebody I want to get down with. Smith, no. Michael Pittman's interesting here, but it is a tough matchup at the Colts, so I'm going to pass on that one as well. Pittman's interesting because with Matt Ryan in there, Pittman does well, but I'd rather use the cheaper guys, and Pittman's now priced down to a pretty reasonable level, but no. Terry McLaurin is playable as well here. He has been really just fed by Heineke since Heineke took over, and this is about what we can expect in his great games. He can get a 20, a 22. It's just barely enough to sort of make value versus his salary level. Looking at some other names here. Deontay Johnson, no. DJ Moore, meh. Judy Hurt. Robinson, meh. Myers, not a bad spot actually for Jacoby Myers. I don't hate it. Don't love it. Don't hate it. But since we didn't stack Fields with his tight end, kind of want to put Mooney in there. Last couple weeks it's been Kmet, so I think that's how most people will go. So I don't mind getting a little different here with Darnell, Mooney, and get at least some correlation going with our quarterback position. Continuing on, I mean, Drake London would be really interesting, but like I said, the Falcons don't throw the ball, so I don't really want this bring back from the Falcons. They don't throw enough. It's asking a lot for London to make value ever based on how often they throw. I want to take a look at why Darius Slayton's salary has come up. I guess he's getting a few targets a week, but that is no reason to get crazy with him. I'm interested in Garrett Wilson. Last few weeks, he's really been the prime target for Zach Wilson. But Zach Wilson kind of sucks, but, I think it's fine. Chase Claypool, if we didn't play Darnell, Chase Claypool, interesting combo with Fields, but has not done it yet. Peoples-Jones at Buffalo, not really the spot I want to target. This is where I want to go here. Van Jefferson. So we need a few things to break our way, but I'm assuming that Stafford will play and that Cooper Kupp will not play. In that scenario, I really like Van Jefferson. Van Jefferson's a talented player. He's just making his way back from injury. I think he's actually the best wide receiver, not named Cooper Kupp, on the Rams right now. And he's kind of cheap at 4,500. Not a game I'm super excited about, but I'm not scared of the Saints defense at all. So I'm putting Van Jefferson in here. I do want to kind of continue down and go through point out a couple other bargain plays that I think exist here at the wide receiver position on DraftKings, but I don't mind Schultz here. Jarvis Landry, again, at some point he might break out as well and start to kind of get some targets here, but that's whole situation with the Saints, I like them better at home. So Jarvis Landry, mildly interesting. Terrace Marshall has been just all right. Jahan Dotson, decent spot for him at Houston. But again, I don't think Taylor Heineke's skill set really is great for him. But one other player I do like a little bit is Paris Campbell. Even with the tough matchup at Philly or at home versus Philly, I'm not sure Paris Campbell will be matched up, for example, against Slay very often. It's going to be Pittman out there, and we should get Campbell in the slot a little bit. So I actually kind of like Paris Campbell here, even in a rough matchup. Home versus the Eagles' elite defense, but I'm not going there because it is an elite defensive matchup. I'd rather go with Jefferson. A couple other names here that might stick out. Let's just kind of scroll down a little bit here and see if there's anyone else. Benny Skoranek, I guess. No, that's about it here. Later in the week, we'll figure out some other plays, but did I see Michael Gallup? Yeah, he's another one that I'm really interested in. Gallup might be that guy, but if I put Gallup and Lamb in a lineup together, it has to be helmed by Dak. But you know what? Just think of what I could do right now if I put Dak in there, I save 1,000. I put Gallup in there over Mooney, I'll save another few hundred, and then we could really put a stud in the flex. So if we needed to kind of do something different, that is another lineup that I'll probably be looking at putting together this week. Some combination of Dak, Lamb, and Gallup, where we and actually that's too many. So we'd have to switch off of Schultz. Don't want 3. Never QB with 3, by the way. Never do that. QB with 2. All right, let's take a look at the final spot here, the flex spot, and I'm going to throw on the flex position, see if there's any running backs that pop up for us. Man, let's see here. No. Probably no. Man, Cordero really seems like the right move. A little bit of correlative bring back. So, all right, I'm going to flow with this one, right? We're going to put Cordero in there. We'll get the full scale Fields, Atlanta, comeback, little correlative. Got Chicago pieces. We got Atlanta pieces in here. And like I said, if we want to do a little something different, I could always swap off of Schultz down to Darnell, and then I'd open up a couple hundred more, probably get Pierce in there. So if I went down to Mooney, I could get Pierce in here as the final piece, which is just all right for me. But no, I'm going to stick with this one. Cordero, kind of player that can help you win a milli maker every once in a while. Why not? So that is your DraftKings first look for NFL Week 11. I'm excited about this week. Should be fun. And, there's not that many QBs that are relevant, which allows us, if we're going to mass multi-enter, to really focus in on a few different spots. So I'm excited about that. Good luck this week, everybody. I will see you later in the week with the game plan.